Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to Lost in the Wasteland, my weekly interview show where I learn a little bit more about somebody else's perspective on movies. And I have a very special guest, filmmaker and star of the new film Mega Blood Moon, The Freelancer. It is Ben Floss. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, hey, hello, Shane, and hello, everyone listening.
Awesome. I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today. But I guess, Ben, would you like to tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Oh, I'm a filmmaker. I'm originally from up in Rochester, New York,
Okay.
currently based out of Los Angeles. For anyone wondering if they should make the move to Los Angeles, don't do it. It's not worth it. You can do movies wherever you are. Um, Started making movies as a kid, got to LA, kept making movies. By gosh, you'll never believe it.
There you go. I'm a New Jersey kid, so I appreciate the Northeast love here. So there you go.
Hmm.
But yeah, I Ben, I appreciate you coming on to talk about your new film, Mega Blood Moon, The Freelancer. Tell the audience a little bit about what the film is.
So the film is about a freelancer who goes into what he is hoping to be his last day of work when it
Mm.
turns out that the mega blood moon that is hanging ominously in the sky has started to create more and more threats that are going to make his last day his potentially last day.
Which I had a lot of fun with this film. It's one of those kinds of films where obviously it has like a lot of the genre elements that's like the driving force of this being like a horror comedy, but there's something relatable about it. And I know something that connected with me is like wasn't even supposed to be here that kind of day at work. But I guess were there certain things that you were drawing upon here with this story that you felt like was shown in the film?
So yes, but it's not really like an artistic inspiration. We were
Mhm.
shooting the movie, I don't want to say illegally, but it was at where I was working and they didn't
Yep.
know I was doing it. So I was drawing off a lot of my own frustrations where I was
Fair.
working. Um, and a lot of it was just we also didn't have a script. So we
Mm.
were just chugging forward, kind of listening to what the spirits were saying and going with them.
Which I know watching the film, I definitely was getting a little bit of like Clerks vibes in terms of I guess from a filmmaking perspective, it kind of is the same idea of like, hey, we're at work, we're making the most of this. But also that feeling of all of us have been in a job where it's just like, do I really have to be here? Why am I here? And I feel like that's a nice, relatable through point to this film to hook the audience. And then, where it diverges from like a film like Clerks is, some wild things happening that are pretty unrealistic. But I guess in terms of, were there any types of films that you felt like were you're drawing upon some inspiration or inspired the story for this?
There were a couple. Society by Brian Usna.
Okay.
That one is one of the ones I love that movie because it
Mhm.
turns from one type of movie to another very quickly.
Yep. Mhm.
So that's a personal favorite. Assault on Precinct 13, The Thing, a lot of John Carpenter.
Mhm.
Um, the kind of movies that it plays on what you're going to expect to happen in it,
Mhm.
and you rewatch it and you see that they planted the seeds the whole time,
Yeah.
but you have this. We had just the idea of the big blood moon
Mhm.
doing stuff, and we were like, okay, well, how do we justify that, and how
Yeah.
do we make that a satisfying turn instead
Mhm.
of just bleh.
Exactly. As I'm looking at my They Live and the Thing poster in my office, I'm a huge John Carpenter fan, and you could definitely feel like that kind of stripped down, kind of visceral experience of like this is very much we're throwing some horror at you, we're throwing some genre elements at you, and we're gonna have a fun time with it. I guess in terms of like obviously you brought up this was like you're filming this at your workspace, but what were some of the things that stood out to you about your experience making the film?
Um, so I got a joke one and then a serious one.
Okay.
The joke one is isopropyl alcohol burns a lot faster than you think it does. Uh,
Important life lessons.
Very important life lessons. If you're ever going to do a stunt like that,
Mm.
be ready for that. Um, but the more important lesson was just how much breathing room gives you to have breathing room. I don't know if that makes sense much, but giving yourself just that little bit more time to really workshop something or finesse something or give yourself that time to think about something. It makes a huge difference in just how you approach a scene in its entire construction, shooting it, delivering it, blocking it. It changes everything when you're able to give yourself just that extra little bit of breathing room. It really, really helps you as a filmmaker just really set it concretely in your head. And
Mm.
so that was the one of the big lessons I took was make sure you set some time.
Which that's a very important thing thinking about because like I can imagine trying to put a film together, being like, we got to get this done, we got to get this done, we got to get this done, and giving yourself that space to be able to play around with it and really like find the best way of approaching this. Because from watching the film, it definitely seems like the kind of film that there weren't. From what I can imagine, based off of what you said, there probably weren't like a ton of like, I need to hit this beat. It's playing around and being able to have fun with it and trying to explore some things. And you could definitely tell from watching the film that there was a lot of fun experimenting with different kinds of like scares and genre elements. And I found that a lot of fun about the film because you're never quite sure exactly where this was going to go. And for very modest runtime, there's a lot of fun to be had watching this film for sure. So I certainly appreciated getting a chance to check it out. But I guess Ben, to the audience, what's that big? This is why you should check out Mega Blood Moon, the Freelancer.
Oh man, there for me is a lot. There's a lot that I'm proud of with it.
Mhm,
You know, sometimes you get in your head as someone who makes movies or someone who's an artist that you kind of have a hard time looking at your own work. And still the case, but there's a couple things in this that just make me so happy to
mhm,
see. Um, I guess the joke one is if you want to see a guy
mhm.
do all of his own stunts and hurt himself, that's a hell of a you'll see someone do something with a light bulb that they don't often do in movies anymore.
Which I can imagine you probably didn't have a whole lot of money for a lot of stunt people to be going in and doing a whole bunch of these kinds of things.
Well, yeah, there's a reason I'm doing all.
There you go.
The budget was the sound of air.
Well, and I think I honestly think that's a special kind of thing because, you know, I think it's a big narrative in film today about budgets and how much budgets are ballooning. And like, did this movie really need to be $300 million? And then you can watch a film like this and like, this is a fun time. And nobody had to spend, you know, a life's worth of somebody's salary hundreds of times over to make it. So it's something inspiring, and I appreciate that for sure.
I mean, I could get on a soapbox about why there's so many problems with funding in American cinema. I'm not going to tear your ear off talking about that, but
Well, you're out there showing like this is what you can do with basically the coins in your pocket. So,
Mhm.
and that's something I think a lot of film fans and filmmakers should check out a film like this and be able to see it's like just because you don't have, you know, Disney money doesn't mean that you can't go out there and make a really entertaining and engaging film. And I certainly was engaged from the start and from that very opening scene, intrigued of like, there's something interesting's happening here. And then going from there and just almost a nonstop thrill ride of bonkers kinds of things. And, you know, done with, the passion of a filmmaker and somebody willing to, do all their own stunts and put their well-being out there because it looked like some of them were not exactly the most fun stunts to do.
No. No, they were not, but they looked cool.
But absolutely. But Ben, I appreciate you uh you know allowing me to check out the film, and I really appreciate the opportunity to check it out. Really enjoyed it. Now, where can people find Mega Blood Moon the Freelancer?
So you can find it for purchase or rental on YouTube Movies, Google Play, and Amazon Prime, or you can watch it for free on Fossum. I don't know if that website's spyware.
I guess you'll find out when you check out the movie. My guess is that it is legit if you look this up on IMDb, and IMDb has a link to it.
I hope
So
so. I really hope so. So whoever's brave enough out there to click that link.
there you go. But no, so please go check out the film and show some love to a crazy, bonkers, fun little film. And sometimes you could just enjoy a film that's not 3 hours, and jump in and have a good time and enjoy a nice, lean, cinematic experience for sure.
Yeah, I want to apologize up front. My movie didn't cost $500 million and it isn't 3.5 hours long, so bear with it. At a brisk 72 minutes, you might lose some focus throughout.
Which is so funny because it's like watch that movie like 3 times over in some movies, and you know, there you go. That's just the nature of it. But I
Mm,
guess Ben, are you ready to for us to learn a little bit more about you as a movie fan?
absolutely, let's do it.
Well, this is always the most fun question because everybody loves being asked this question. But Ben, what's your favorite film?
Man, that's hard, and I'm guessing you hear that a lot.
Yes, but
I'll I'll answer that with the movie I can watch and never get tired of.
okay,
That is Joe versus the volcano.
nice.
I love that movie to death.
Hey, have an interesting premise, fun star, and if it's a film that you can sit back and rewatch over and over and over again and not get sick of, it's like that's a pretty special connection to a film. So I could appreciate that.
The last time I watched Joe versus the volcano, I was just about done with Joe versus the volcano. My wife walked in and asked what I was watching, and I said, "Oh, it's Joe versus the volcano." She said, "I never seen this." I rewound it and we watched it.
So
Just
there you go. If you could literally watch this back to back with itself, I think that's a telling sign that you really love the movie. So
mhm.
there you go. Now, Ben, can you think about what's your earliest memory of going to the movies?
I can actually remember going to see when they re-released it in theaters, The Empire Strikes Back.
Nice.
That was
That's
fun
awesome.
because that was like my first real memory of being like, "Oh, dang, that's what a movie can be."
Mhm.
And now Star Wars is what it is, but seeing it on a big screen as a kid, nearly a religious experience.
I I was so tempted, but I had many movies trying to catch up on over the past week to go see Revenge of the Sith
Hmm.
in theaters when they re-released it because that was what well I got to see I got to see the prequels in theaters as a kid, and that
Hmm.
was such a big moment. And I would love to go back and be able to watch like the original Star Wars or Empire Strikes Back in theaters. And Disney will do it again and again and again
Oh, they're
because
going to. I mean,
they want money.
everyone went and saw Revenge of the only reason I didn't go and see it is because my friends keep inviting me to go see it in like Cinema 4DX or whatever
Mhm.
the moving chairs one is. And I hate that more than anything in this world. Not for the gimmick. I just don't want to move around when I'm trying to watch a movie. I don't want wind blown in my face. I don't want sense. I just want to watch the movie. I don't like I saw the Return of the Lord of the Rings, the Twin Towers or Two Towers in 4DX, and every time the horses beat, the seat shakes, and I was like, I hate this.
It's like I am perfectly fine watching Anakin roast on Mustafar. I do not want to be part of the roasting. I
I do
don't need to
not.
have that experience.
I don't need the olfactory
Yeah.
experience of roasting.
They're just like, did somebody turn the heat on? I think the first time I ever had a 4D experience like that was when I saw Shrek 4D down at I think it was Universal. And I'm like, why am I getting like splashed? And, you know, not my thing either. I'm perfectly fine going to a movie and just, if the movie is good enough, I can feel engrossed without actually like you shaking me while you
Craziest
sit and
thing,
watch this movie.
doing what I'm doing right now and watching a story, pretty neat. 10
Yep.
out of 10 type
So,
activity.
there you go. Now, a couple other favorite type questions. What's your favorite genre of movies?
I generally like movies that kind of
Mhm.
don't stick to any one genre. They just kind of wander around in whichever one fits for what they're going for. I mean, obviously, I love horror and like grounded sci-fi,
Hmm.
but man, is it great when there's like a massive tone shift and it switches genres completely, like Society,
Hmm.
or it just very consistently toes the line between a couple different genres.
Hmm. I know a lot of discourse around Sinners, which is also them bringing up a lot of discourse around From Dusk Till Dawn. And it's just like, where the vampires coming from? And I can't imagine because, like, obviously, I went into watching From Dusk Till Dawn for the first time, knowing that there was vampires in it. But like, sometimes I just wish that I didn't know that, and then that moment happens, you're just like, what?
So I had the opposite experience when I first watched From Dusk Till Dawn because I was just like, what's this, some kind of horror western? This looks great. Little me. I go home, watch it, hits the vampires, and I was like, whoa, 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 what's going on here?
Which that's such a like. There's certain films where I'm just like, I really wish that I didn't know
Mhm,
where this was going. I think one film like Abigail that came out was that last year. I
mhm,
wish I didn't know this was a vampire movie because like how wild would that have been when you come to the realization this small girl is a vampire and you're just like what?
mhm.
And because like there's a good 30 minutes of build up before you know this in the actual movie. So it's always fun like when a film can subvert your expectations and you're just like, oh, now we're on for a ride. And I'm all about it. You got me. You got me hooked. Now, do you have a particular favorite filmmaker?
That one's hard. Um, I don't know if you count like Ray Harryhausen or Phil Tippett as
Okay.
filmmakers, but they're
Hey.
definitely hugely
Mhm.
like they're just two guys whose work I admire a lot. Obviously, like John Carpenter, Stuart
Yep.
Gordon, Brian Usna. Um, there's one other. I mean, Ennio Morricone, and
Mhm.
I'm gonna just lump him and Sergio Leone together
Yep.
because without Ennio Morricone, a lot of his movies just they'd be great, but not what they are.
Like the music for any of the Dollars trilogy, just like it wouldn't have the same impact. And what's wild is like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly has like three or four completely different themes that are
Hmm.
all absolutely fantastic. That any movie wish that they had one of these. And it's just like one of those kinds of things where it's just like, wow, this is wild.
Well, so I
But
actually learned recently that
mm,
before even filming The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, he contacted Ennio Morricone and just went, "Hey, start working on a theme. We'll figure out the movie around it." And so the Ecstasy of Gold theme was done before the scene was even shot, so they shot to it, and it's just
and
like,
then we
ah,
got
that's
to
beautiful.
watch Eli Wallach running around a graveyard, just like, where's the gold? But I speaking of like really long movies, that 3 hour documentary about Ennio was that came out recently. Like, I love that. Loved every
Hmm.
second of that. I'm like, I could watch 3 hours of them just talking about one of the greatest composers of all time. But I do want to go back to the Ray Harryhausen and Phil Tippett because I spent so much time growing up watching Clash of the Titans, watching Jason and the Argonauts, and just the wonder of watching this claymation come to life and these creatures and everything. Those skeletons, and just like
The
they've been
skeletons, the
like,
hydras, the colossus, Phil
yep,
Tippett's work with Jurassic Park on the few parts where there are actually stop motion.
yeah, And I even just like his film Mad God that
Yeah.
came out was just one of the most wild, unique experiences that I've had watching a movie in years. And I'm like, this is a fever dream. But you know what? This is absolutely just like pull you right in.
I was telling
And
a friend because they're like, "Oh, you saw Mad God, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "How was it?" And I was like, "It kind of just happens at you, and you like it or you don't."
that is a very fair assessment because that is not a movie for everybody. And it's just like you're along for this ride or you're not. Stay on or get off. And then of course John Carpenter. Like I
Hmm.
could throw in so many Carpenter films, and I have a other show on my channel where I pick a filmmaker and then every week I watch one of their films throughout their whole filmography. And I loved my John Carpenter series.
Hmm.
Just going back and watching all of his that peak from like late 70s to late 80s was just
Hmm.
incredible. And then, I think eventually he's just like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. And he sits around, he plays video games and collects those royalty checks and has a good time. So,
And then goes
John
on tour to
Carpenter,
play the music from all the movies that everyone loves.
yes. And occasionally just being like, can you please come and make us a score for something? I remember watching the new Firestarter
Hmm.
and was not particularly a fan of the movie, but did I sit through the credits because the John Carpenter score that he made for the film? And I'm like, this is gonna sound really bad in my review when I say my favorite part of this movie was the credits because that score was amazing. But sometimes it's the truth.
That
But
sounds like a really mean like early 2000s GameSpot review of a game.
I sat on the loading screen and just listened to the music. Oh my. I could definitely, you know what? I could definitely see a review like that coming out on IGN too. Oh my. Now, thinking about in front of the camera, who are some of your favorite performers?
Oh, Kurt Russell. I'm just gonna cut straight to the quick on that.
Yeah.
Kurt Russell. Jeffrey Combs, Kurt Russell. Nailed it. Done. Death Becomes Her, Meryl Streep, Goldie Hawn. Done. We're out of here.
Yep. I just you could throw Kurt Russell in anything, and just the level of charisma that he injects into it, whether he's just Snake Plissken or Jack Burton, who's a complete idiot, but he's so macho all the way down.
He's just
And
so dumb and he's so confident, so he just wins.
yep, and he gets knocked out at the climax of the film, and everybody else wins the fight, but he did his part. Or like even when he's doing like his best John Wayne impression
Mhm.
in westerns and stuff like that, like Hateful Eight, I'm just like, I think Tarantino was just like, be John Wayne. He's just like, I
Yeah,
can do that.
got it.
Yep. And you know, seeing him pop up in something like Guardians, where he plays like a literal planet, and just like this is what this planet would turn himself into, if
Mhm.
he was a human, is Kurt Russell, and that makes a lot of sense to me. So there you go.
Or even something like Soldier when he's like a stone-faced
Mhm.
half cyborg killer or brainwashed like murder machine. And it's just like, damn, Kurt Russell has range.
Yep. Well, and that's the thing too. And he's so much fun. Like you could tell, like watching something like Death Proof, he was having so much fun making this movie.
Hmm.
And you can tell every single second of it, for sure.
Well, and that's part of it. It's like him and Jeffrey Combs never seem like they're having a bad time
Mhm.
making something. Like Reanimator, Frighteners,
Yeah.
anything Jeffrey Combs has been in, he just looks like he's having a blast and he's going to chew every piece of furniture the entire time. And Kurt Russell's the same way, just maybe without all the furniture chewing.
And the bigger the mustache, the better.
Oh, it's how you tell the quality of the movie. Big Trouble in Little China being the exception, clean shaven.
It's like the bigger the mustache, or like there's so many things I love about the thing, including Kurt Russell's hair and beard.
Hmm.
Because like, how does he make it look so amazing in the middle of Antarctica?
Where'd you get where'd you get conditioner out here?
That didn't freeze. But now, You kind of answered this question, but I'll see if you have a different answer. But what's a film that you could literally just watch every day?
Oh yeah, Joe versus the volcano. Every day,
There,
Joe versus the
there
volcano.
you go.
I mean, the
Now,
next one down is Big Trouble in Little China.
same fun vibes, same
Yeah.
like like throw Kurt Russell in being a trucker who has to save the world from like ancient Chinese sorcerers and stuff like that, and does absolutely nothing to actually win the day, but he's still the hero. So it's a perfect kind of vibe for sure.
Hmm.
Now, what's a film that you connect to because it relates to another interest of yours?
Ooh, you have to give me a second on that one.
Mhm.
Hmm. Dang, am I really that boring?
It's like that moment Ben realized all I do is watch
Oh yeah,
movies.
the brain fart moment of like, what am I interested in? Um, damn, yeah, what am I interested in? Can we circle back to this one? Because
Yeah,
I'm having a struggle thinking of one.
absolutely. I really like that question, but it is a challenging question, thinking about being able to build those kinds of connections. But who's a movie character you feel like you connect with on a personal level?
You're never gonna guess this. Never ever in your life will you guess what character in Big Trouble in Little China I connect with.
You know, all of us could wish that we just had that Jack Burton vibe and just blissfully go through life and just having a good time.
I
So
think it's like the epitome of imposter syndrome because he's this confident guy who does nothing yet does fine.
he is the antithesis of imposter syndrome. There's nothing that he accomplishes and nothing he does well, really, but he believes he is the hero of the story, and that's the best part of the movie is that his sidekick is the one who actually has skills and is getting stuff done. And it's just so much fun watching him just go through life that way.
it's
Like,
it's it's a weirdly for everything it does, it is a weirdly relatable movie. If you are
mm,
someone in the arts going like, man, I don't know if I'm actually like good at anything, and you see Jack Burton and you're like, you know what? Maybe it doesn't matter.
just like if you believe in Jack Burton well enough, won the day, and really don't have to really accomplish or attribute to anything to that accomplishment. But at the end, he got the girl, he got out there and riding off in his truck and has a giant monster on it. Uh, so,
Oh, I got
but
it. Looping back a question.
mhm,
Kind of goes full circle. Ray Harryhausen, like Clash of the Titans. I
mhm.
love building miniatures. I used to do a lot of stop motion animation. I do a lot of historical miniatures. It always fascinated me because it was someone who made all of those little things come to life, and that was so cool.
That's the craziest thing about stop motion is just like the amount of time that you have to put into this. And I just remember that one episode of Parks and Recreations where one character Ben is just like, I have all this time off. I'm going to make a stop motion animated film, and he has like 10 seconds of
It's
footage,
like 5 or
and he's
10
like,
seconds.
that's all that I did. And it's a very meticulous and very obviously it has such a rewarding result. I love stop motion, whether it's
Mhm.
like Nightmare Before Christmas or like I've talked about Fantastic Mr. Fox so many times over the past
Mhm.
couple months on some of my channels. And just like seeing those like model foxes and badgers and everything, and just seeing them come to life in that kind of way. But no, Ray Harryhausen really made such a big impact with those claymation creatures and stuff like that. That Medusa is terrifying.
Yeah, No, watching that as a kid, it scared the even the skeleton scared the crap out of me as a kid. The way they just kind of reform and start attacking, it was like, whoa!
Well, and those multiple POV shots where they're like coming at you like this is
Oh,
just like,
just the amount of work he put into to making sure that the camera angles were still dynamic and not just like a static two
yeah,
sides coming at one another. They were still over the shoulders of the claymated skeletons. It's like,
yeah.
what kind of lunatic does that to himself? Turns out, me.
There you go. Now, then, what's a film that you love that you feel like would surprise people?
I'm not gonna say Joe versus the volcano again. Um, you know what? I got one.
Okay.
Netflix released a Christmas love movie, like romance movie with Lindsay Lohan. I forget the name, but I absolutely adore
Was
it.
it the one where she's like a really rich woman and like loses her, like hits
Yeah,
her
she
head or
loses her
something and has
memory.
amnesia? Yep. You know, Netflix just has like barrels of movies that come out every single year. But I'm just like, all that time I've watched Mean Girls and grew up with Lindsay Lohan. It was nice seeing her back doing something.
Well,
And,
doing something fun. She got her Netflix Lifetime movie.
yeah, there you go. If you can't find it on Hallmark or on Lifetime, you'll find it on Netflix. So this
I guess,
holiday season.
yeah,
So
I adore some Lifetime movies, partially because sometimes they're just amazingly nonsensical, and the other times is because I'm a little mushy guy on the inside. I like
there you
that
go.
mushy romance.
Absolutely. I feel like everybody, no matter who you are, has that like rom-com that you absolutely love, and you might not be willing to tell people that you really loved it, but it does melt your heart a little bit. So there you go. But then my last question for you is, what do you love most about movies?
Making them or watching them or anything, moosh boosh.
Any, anything.
I love that you're able to pretty much instantly find a community
Mhm.
based on whatever movie you like. Even if you like just one movie, you'll be able to find and connect and talk to people who have the same love of that thing, but could have a completely different experience with it that enables you to view that thing you love in a different light. I love the community of filmmakers and film enjoyers coming together to just have a dialogue on art, and that's so cool.
It's one of my favorite things about doing all my things that I have on my channel with my shows is, getting to connect with people that love movies and getting to talk about a film, whether it's something that I have one podcast where it's literally just an excuse for me to rewatch all my favorite movies each month and then have somebody else come on. And the only requirement for the guest to come on is you also have to love the movie because this is not a review, this is not a critique. This is just we're gonna sit here for an hour and talk about how much we love this movie. And some of them divulge into just quoting the whole entire thing. I would admit that my Shrek episode definitely turned into that, or like the Big Lebowski, but like just being able to, connect with others over a film. And I appreciate your point because all of us come to films in different ways and from different perspectives. And, you know, I was literally just rewatching for me, first time watch for my wife, The Iron Claw. And
Hell
like
yeah.
I am a humongous professional wrestling fan. So I came in like I remember when they announced that movie, I'm like, I'm so
Oh
excited. It's
yeah.
a pro wrestling
No,
movie.
my
And then
wife was
like
like, "Oh, do you want to go see this wrestling movie?" And I was like, "Ah,
and
you're
then the
not gonna
wrestling
have
fan just
fun."
like I was the one who had to warn everybody. I'm like,
Mhm.
this isn't gonna end well.
This
Cause
ends
like
sad.
I knew what was gonna happen. And did I cry a little bit before I came up here to start this show? Yes. And it's like I have a brother. And just the way that film processes and like at the very end, spoiler alert for history, you could look this stuff up. But when Zach Efron's just like, I used to be a brother, and I'm just like, nope, like,
Yeah,
and it
it
just
just
hits.
hurts. As
It
this, I
hurts.
also have two brothers, so when I heard that, I was like, I don't think I'll ever be able to watch this movie again.
I'm like, and what was wild was I had an even more emotional reaction the second time watching this movie than the first time I watched it. I'm just like, is this what's gonna happen every time I watch this movie? So it
Well,
might
because you
be a
had to have been
while.
like dreading it when it was coming up. It was just like, I know what's about to happen, and I
Well,
know
and
exactly what it's going to feel like.
the that line, like, I think my wife could see my face dropped the moments leading up to him saying that. I'm just like, I know it's coming, but I can't stop it. But you know, I knew a lot of people who saw that, which, well, actually, no, I didn't know a lot of people who saw it, and that was probably part of the problem. I wish more people saw it, but I came to that film because, like, I love professional wrestling, and others who I know do not watch wrestling were like, "Wow, I cried a lot watching this movie," and being able to connect with a film in that kind of way from different perspectives is really awesome for sure.
Hmm.
But Ben, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. And how I always like to wrap up my show is have my guests ask me a question. So, what would you like to ask the Wasteland reviewer?
All right. I hope you're ready.
Okay.
Wrestling persona and first feud. What would it be?
So, this, I come prepared because, I do daydream about being a professional wrestler.
Oh, if you're a
Um,
wrestling fan, I don't think you can help but daydream
yeah.
about being a professional wrestler.
So, being an Italian American from New Jersey, I want to be the head of a stable of South Jersey Italians, which would also probably include my brother, because my brother is also a wrestling fan. And I
Yes.
would come out to woke up this morning because no New Jersey Italian would not have a physical reaction to the Sopranos theme song coming on.
Absolute hit gimmick right out of
Yep.
the gate.
And it's a mixture of Italian mafioso and the Kingpin from Daredevil. And I feel like I would have to go after some other stable because our stable needs to have some clout. So we're going after the bloodline. Coming for you, Roman Reigns. Go big or
I
go
mean,
home. So there you go.
there's no king in this town without bowing to you.
There you
There it
go.
is. You got to respect the Don.
Love that question. And I think it's hilarious that I had an answer prepared. But that's what part of being a wrestling fan is. You get really into it. And it's just like, I would love to do this. Um,
I do not know another single wrestling fan who doesn't have like that first feud, what the character is, the gimmick
yep.
for it, right off the bat.
There you go. But Ben, thank you so much for coming on. One, giving me a chance to check out your film, which you all should go see, Mega Blood Moon, The Freelancer. It's so much fun. And thank you so much for coming on and talking movies with me.
Absolutely. It was awesome to be on. Good talking movies and eventually getting to wrestling.
There you go. And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.